Hello students, welcome to Math Fam. I'm Reena. So today we'll be taking coordinate geometry. So when we are taking this topic, in this topic I'm going to explain you distance formula, midpoint formula and the other parts which is related to coordinate geometry. We'll also be solving questions, exam type questions which is based on this topic. So please see the video till the end. So first thing in lower grades, you have already learned that the position of any point on the number plane or Cartesian plane or plane, it is always specified in the terms of order pair. And how do we write on here? It's always x comma y. We always write on first x coordinate or and then y coordinate. And sometime your x coordinate, what is the other name of x coordinate? If I take x coordinate, you will call it as abscissa, right? This is called abscissa. And y coordinate, what is the other name we can use here? That's called ordinate. Sometimes that's the mathematical term in higher classes. You will not say, sometimes it's called ordinate also, right? Now what is written here? X is the, you know that any x-axis, whenever you are taking Cartesian plane, it is going to be x-axis is horizontal line here, y-axis is going to be vertical line. So any x coordinate means it represents the horizontal movement, horizontal steps from a fixed point O, which is origin, and y is the vertical step, that means movement in y direction up or down from the origin. Once the origin has been given, two perpendicular axes are drawn, right? So this is called origin. This point, you take it as O. We always mention at O, and this is the 0. What is the coordinates here? 0 comma 0. Now if it says A comma P is a point with coordinates A comma B, that means it is order pair x comma y, right? Now x direction movement is a unit. So from the origin, if I move a units to the right, because it's a positive, if it is negative way, we will move left from the origin. So because a is positive, we are moving to the right side from the origin. So from the origin, a unit to the right and b unit up, because it's a y direction vertical movement. So this is going to be a comma b position, right? Similarly here, x is the horizontal, y axis vertical. Now two dimensional plane also it's called, or sometimes we call it as Cartesian plane, based on the mathematician Rain Descartes, right? So here, what are, if you see here, the Cartesian plane is given with some points A, B, C, D, E. It's always written x. Now x direction, if you are moving to the right, it is always positive. If you are moving to the horizontal negative side, it is from the origin, it will be negative. Now similarly from origin, if I am moving up, then it is positive. If I am moving anywhere downside, it is going to be negative. Now look at here coordinates of B, because on the axis, if I take here on x-axis, here on x-axis, you all know that y coordinate is 0 or ordinate is 0. Ordinate is always 0. Similarly, on y-axis, if you will take it, x coordinate is 0 or abscissa. If I take it here, abscissa is 0. So that is why B here, it is on y-axis. That means the movement in x direction, right or left, it's not there. It is only to the above from the origin. So it is going to be 0 comma 2 units. Similarly, the coordinates of C, how are you going to do it? From the origin, you are moving left. So that is why it is minus 3 and 1 unit up. So it is going to be minus 3 comma 1. For point D, because it is on x-axis and to the negative side, so it is going to be minus 1 comma 0. And what is the way we find out distance between any two points which is in the slant way? Now if I say here any 2 points which is on the axis, right? So if I am taking here, if you will see, if I take here x direction, this is y-axis, and this is, if it is x-axis, right, this is x-axis, this is y-axis. If I write down here, this is origin 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and here if I write down minus 1, minus 2, and similarly here if you are writing 1 unit, 2 unit, here negative 1, negative 2. Now anything which is on the axis, it's very easy to find out the distance. So here if I mark here, this is point A and this point is B. What is the distance between AB here? If I need to find out here distance between AB, you know that it is on axis, so if you'll take it from -2, because the distance can never be negative, right? So I can take the absolute value of -2. From 0 it is 2 units, right? And 0 to 3 it is 3 units. So altogether what is going to be the distance here? Distance is going to be 5 units. Similarly, if I take any point on y-axis, if it is point C and this point is D, so what is the distance between here CD? If I'm taking, because it is on y-axis, so from this, if I take it, the distance is never taken negative, it is always positive, so total it is going to be 3 units. But if I need to find out any 2 point which is on quadrant, because these are called quadrant, this is called first quadrant, this is second quadrant, this is third quadrant, and this is called fourth quadrant. You know that any point here, if I take here P, it will have the x comma y, it is any coordinate here, the both are going to be positive. Any point on the second quadrant, the x coordinate, which is abscissa, is going to be negative, and the y coordinate is going to be positive. In third quadrant, any point if I take it here r, then the both are going to be negative, and any point s here, it will be positive negative. Now if I am taking here P and I need to take one more point here, which is X, how I'm going to find out the distance between P to X, right? So for this, to find out distance of any 2 points from anywhere to anywhere, or if I'm taking one point here Y and another point here somewhere, if I take it here, which is Z. So how are we going to find out the distance between these 2 points? Because it is going to have the different coordinates. So in that case, we use distance formula. So what is your distance formula? If I start with distance formula is the way to find out the distance between any 2 points where the coordinates are known. So let us take it here, distance formula. I'll just quickly discuss the derivation here. Then we will solve the questions. Okay, so if I take a point here A, and this is another point B, and the A, it can be any coordinates x1, y1 and x2, y2, right? I need to find out here distance between A to B. So what I'll do here, they are making here the right triangle here. This is the right triangle, and if I take this length, which is ABC, so you know that distance, whenever there is a right triangle, I can use hypotenuse square will be equals to sum of square of the other two sides. So what I can write down here, if I write down this as P, right? So we can write down here in triangle ABP, you know that AB square, that we need to find out distance between these 2 points, are going to be equals to AP square plus BP square using Pythagoras theorem, right? Now here, if I, because the coordinates are given in terms of x1, y1, that can be any coordinate. So here, what is going to be your AP distance? It is x movement from here to this point. And what is this? This is x2. So what is going to be distance between these two? It will be x2 minus x1, and this much distance y step, which is the y direction movement, is y2 minus y1, right? So what can we write down here? AB square, or it can be written as under root AP is x2 minus x1 whole square plus y2 minus y1 whole square. So this is nothing but we call it as distance formula. This is to, if you know the coordinates, then you can use distance formula to find out distance between any 2 points, right? Similarly, if I need to find out the midpoint of these 2 points, so if AB is a point and here Q is the point, and if I write down here Q is the midpoint of AB, Q is the midpoint of AB, right? Now to find out this, find its coordinate. If I need to find out here, find its coordinates, what are we going to do it? How can we do it? We are going to use here midpoint formula. So what is the another formula? So this is called distance formula, and then you learn here midpoint formula. To find out the mid coordinates of the midpoint of any line segment having endpoints, we use midpoint formula. What is your midpoint formula? If I take it here, total distance divided into two equal parts. So we take it here, x1 plus x2 by 2 comma y1 plus y2 by 2. So this is nothing but the coordinates of point Q. Q is going to be the midpoint, right? So this one, these two formula we use to solve the questions. Now, how are we going to use these formulas, these two formulas to solve the question? So we'll see that. What is your question? First question. So I'll be showing you questions in between to solve based on each of the topics. So this is your first question. What is given in this question? Find out the coordinates of the midpoint of the line segment of point P 2 comma 1 to point Q, right? So first it's always easy. If you draw, it becomes easy to solve the question. So here, if I take here question 1, they are saying that the line segment joining P to Q. So I'll take here point P, and if I take a line segment with endpoint as Q, right? If I take here, this is Q. What is the coordinate of P? It is 2 comma 1, and coordinates of Q, it is 6 comma 4. I have to find out the midpoint. If I take here, if I take R is the midpoint of PQ, then using midpoint formula here, if I say here R coordinates is X comma Y, how are you going to get this coordinates here? So we know that first you will write down always, because communication part explanation, you should always write down the formula here, right? So midpoint formula first you will write down, you know that it is x1 plus x2 by 2, where x1 and x2 are the endpoints x coordinate, and comma y1 plus y2 by 2, which are the, what are the y coordinates of the endpoint. So this is your x1 y1, this is your x2 y2. And how will you use it here? How are you going to get the coordinates of r, which is in x comma y, which is ordered, where you can substitute 2 plus 6 by 2 comma 1 plus 4 by 2, right? So the coordinates of r, it is coordinates of r is 2 plus 6, 8, 8 by 2, it is going to be 4 comma 5 by 2, or you can write down here 4 comma 2.5 also in the decimal part, right? So you got here coordinates as 4 comma 2.5. After that, what is written in part B? This is part A, right? Then second part, it's given here, find the length of line segment PQ. That means I have to find out how much is the length of this. And the moment we are talking about the length means we are going to take distance formula. What is your distance formula? Under root x2 minus x1 whole square plus y2 minus y1 whole square. So we'll write down here, first we will write down distance formula. Whenever you are using any formula, make sure you are writing formula first. So this is your distance formula, that is x2 minus x1 whole square plus y2 minus y1 whole square, right? Now what is your x2? You can take it x1 minus x2 whole square plus y1 minus y2 whole square also. So you know that this is your x1 endpoints are this. So, and here if I take x2 y2, so you can write down here 6 minus 2 whole square plus 4 minus 1 whole square. Now this, if you do the further simplification, it's a 4 square, that is going to be 16 plus 3 square, that is 9, and you are getting here root 25, and distance cannot be negative, so you'll consider only positive value of square root, that is 5 units, right? So this is AB distance. This is nothing but you are calculating distance here. AB we have taken PQ, so it's not AB, it is PQ, right? So you write down here PQ length is 5 units using distance formula. Let us go for the next question also. What are the other type of question you can get it here using distance and midpoint formula? So I will give you the next question also. This is your next question. It says here question 2, one endpoint of the line segment. See, in this question both the endpoints were given P and Q, but in this next question it says one endpoint of the line segment. So it can be P or Q. It's minus 2 comma 3. The midpoint is given, which is 3 comma 1, find the coordinates of the point of the other end. That's why I said please draw the rough figure so it's easy to solve the questions. Here if I take A, B are the endpoints, right? And here in the middle, if there is a P is midpoint, that means the line segment length will be equal. So here if minus 2 comma 3 is one of the endpoint, and here 3 comma 1 is given, and if I take here let B coordinates be x comma y. So can I write down here x comma y, or it can be x2 y2 also, because in your formula if you see x1 y1 x2 y2. So what is your midpoint formula? Because midpoint is given, we'll use midpoint formula. Midpoint formula, you know that it is x1 plus x2 by 2 comma y1 plus y2 by 2. Right now midpoint is P. So what are the coordinates of P? 3 comma 1 will be minus 2 plus x2 by 2. You need to calculate x2 and y2. 3 plus y2 by 2. Now you will solve this using comparison. If you will see, because both the values are equal, x coordinate will equate with x and y coordinate will equate with y. So I can write down here minus 2 plus x2 by 2 equals to 3, and here if I equate 3 plus y2 by 2 is equals to 1. Correct? Then what do we do if I transpose x2 will be 3 times 2 plus 2, and here it can be y2 will be equals to 1 times 2 minus 3. So you get here x2 as 6 plus 2, it is 8, and y2 value 2 minus 3, it will be minus 1. So what are going to be the coordinates of the other end point here? Point the other end, it is going to be 8 comma minus 1. So here coordinates, you have to conclude your answer. Coordinates of other endpoint, which I have taken in this figure as B, is 8 comma minus 1. In order where you always write down x coordinate first and then you write down y coordinate. So these are the type of the question. Then after that you will learn about straight line. After that we will see the straight line graphs. Now you know that straight line graphs, you always get it whenever you join two points, you always get a straight line, a unique straight line. So here if you will see, there are three straight line. One is a green color, right? One is red color, and here one is navy blue in color. So if I label this, this is called, if I say line L, line M and line N, correct? Now there are infinite, every line is the here collection of infinite points. Out of that, if I take any 2 point, like here if I take here A and if I take another point on B, now in whenever you have a line, you will see the gradient or slope, right? You see the gradient or slope of a straight line. So after that, whenever you learn distance, midpoint for distance formula, midpoint formula, after that you learn gradient. What is the meaning of gradient or slope of a straight line? And we always get gradient of a straight line only, right? Of a straight line. So what do we do here? Whenever we are taking, you can take any 2 points. See, gradient of a straight line is always constant. Why do we say it is always constant? It does not change, because look at here in this example, if I take the coordinates of B, that is here, this is going to be minus 1 comma minus 3. What are the coordinates of point B here? If I take it here, it is minus 1 comma minus 3, because you always write on x coordinate first, and a coordinates are 2 comma 3. Now I am saying here that the gradient or slope, or how much is the tilt, right? The line, if this can be like this can be like this, or the line can be like this also. But what is this tilt? That's called slope or gradient. How do we calculate? Now if you see here, this is the vertical distance here. This is the vertical distance and this is the horizontal distance, right? This is called horizontal distance between these 2 points, and this is called vertical because distance is always perpendicular. So between AB, horizontal distance is BP and vertical distance is AP, right? How much is that if you see? So that is why vertical we always take gradient. that we will always write down here m, which we call it as gradient or slope, is always here we take it here rise over run. Okay, rise over run means it's a vertical change. If you see here, it's written also vertical distance between 2 points. So what is the vertical distance? Distance is always positive, right? So here if you see -3 to +3, it is going to be 6 units distance. And if you see the horizontal distance, it is from -1 to 2, that is going to be 3 units. So what is going to be, how much is the rise? 6 units. And how much is the run? It is 3 units. So your gradient or slope is 2. Now I said here in the statement the gradient is always constant. How can you check the gradient is constant? If I take any other point here C and here point D. Now what is going to be a horizontal distance? This is your horizontal distance between CD. This is vertical distance between CD, right? So what is going to be here? This is gradient of AB, right? If I take here, let us cross verify whether the gradients are same or not. So gradient or slope we generally write down with small m of CD. If you see rise over run means here change in y coordinate, how much with change in x coordinate. So I'll tell you that formula also. So how much is the rise here? If you see from here, if you are taking here, it is from here I can go here 2 units up and then 1 units right? So it is 2 unit up, 1 unit right, which is going to be equals to gradient is 2, right? So here one thing you have to remember, what will happen if my line is, if I take the above example, line L if I take it. So what is going to be the slope of line L here, line L. So take any 2 points. If I take this point as P and this point as Q, so how to find out the gradient of PQ? Which gradient here, gradient of PQ? If you need to find out here gradient of PQ, you know that how much is the rise here? Rise, if you will see, it is the vertical distance and then the horizontal distance. Now, if you will see from P to Q, because I have written, you can go Q to P or P to Q. Any 2 points on line L, you can take it to calculate the gradient because it is constant. Now, I am going here vertical distance downside, right? So, you will take it here -2 and from here it is to the right side, that means positive. So what you need to remember, if you are taking rise over run for right side movement, horizontal right movement or vertical up movement is always positive, and if you are moving here anything down here, then it is going to be negative, and left also it is going to be the negative movement, right? So if you see this, the gradient is here -1, because the slope of this line, it is nothing but it is -1. So that you need to do it. So you know that rise over run, sometimes it's a difficult. See, if I can find out the coordinates, it's easy. Otherwise, there is one standard formula here. How do we calculate here gradient? Gradient or slope, if we take it, we write down as always m, which is change in y by delta x, which is equals to y2 minus y1 by x2 minus x1, where x1 y1, it's the coordinates of point A and B. Like how did we start here? We have taken here, if you cross check here, A coordinates were 2 comma 3 and B coordinates were -1 comma -3. Now let us directly take these coordinates to calculate the slope or gradient. So what is your y2 here? If you see here, this is your x1 y1, this is your x2 y2, right? And I said here y2 minus y1, so -3 by -1 -2. So y2 minus y1 by x2 minus x1, it is -6 by -3, which is 2. So my gradient is 2, and here when I did here rise over run also, your gradient was 2 here. Correct? So that means it's the same. So we can use this formula to calculate the gradient of any straight line. Now, these are the pointers that you have to remember. It says if we choose any two distinct points on the line, right? So, a horizontal step and the vertical step may be determined. So, there are always two cases. Either your gradient can be positive or your gradient can be negative. So, when do we get the positive gradient? If the slope is towards the right side, right? Or this is called forward slope. So see here, all these lines like this, which is moving are forward sloping, have positive gradient. Why is it positive gradient? Because when I take any 2 point, see your movement is positive and vertical movement is also positive. So you know that positive divided by positive is always positive. Now if you are coming here point A to B, this is going to be negative and this is also negative, and negative divided by negative, that is also positive. So any forward slope here, it always will give you the positive gradient. Now where you will get the negative gradient, if you see, this is called backward sloping, right? So if the lines are like this, or here also this is the case too, it's given like that. Now, why do we get negative? Because here the vertical movement is negative and the horizontal step is positive. See, horizontal is going to the right. If this is point A, this is point B. From A to B, how will you reach there? Horizontal step is positive and vertical, it's going down, so it's a negative. And negative divided by positive, it's always going to be negative. Right? So this you need to remember here. So whenever you can say that positive whenever it's to the forward sloping, and if it is backward sloping, then you get always get the negative slope. Other than that, you have to remember, steeper the gradient, the value is going to, steeper gradient are going to have the greater value, right? So the large value of the gradient implies that the line is steep. So you can see that this is going to be, your line is steeper than the other line which is there to this. So here the gradient, if I take M1, will be less than M2, which is the gradient of M2 is the gradient of the second line. So this thing you have to remember. Now, how do you calculate the gradient when the coordinates are given here? In this one, this first question, it says that you need to find out the gradient joining the points D, which is 1 comma 5 to E, right? So how are you going to do it? You know that the gradient is always y2 minus y1 by x2 minus x1. So I can take it here, 2 minus 5 by 5 minus 1, which is minus 3 by 4. Now that means your line is going to be backward slope, this kind of any slope where D is here, E is here. Correct? So your gradient is minus 3 by 4. Now other than that also, if you will see the graph, if the graph is given and you need to find out the gradient of this line, straight line which is given, you know that again this is a backward slope, so it is going to be the negative gradient. How can you do it? You can take any two coordinates. Don't take the any point which is in the middle. You can take the intersection of x and y axis, so that it's easy to identify the coordinates, and I can take here x intercept, which is 4 comma 0, or if you want to use here rise over run. Now if I take this point AB, what is going to be the gradient of AB here? Gradient of AB, I'll use formula and I'll tell you how do you use rise over run. Now here first I take delta y by delta x. What is the change in y from over change in x? So if I want to go to A to B, first I have to take rise. Now it's moving downside, means it is going to be negative 2 units. It's moving down by, if you see after reaching here, you are moving, it's moving to the right side to reach to B. So how many units movement? If you will see, total 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, and till positive 4 it is going to be 8. So you get minus 1 by 4 as the gradient. Now if I take the coordinates, let me see here, a is minus 4 comma 2 and the coordinates of point B is 4 comma 0. Let us take here the formula y2 minus y1 by x2 minus x1. So y2, if you see, if I take 0, 0 minus 2 by 4, negative of negative 4, that is minus 2 by 8, and you are getting minus 1 by 4. In both the cases, you can see that, yeah, the gradient is minus negative 1 by 4 here. So after finding gradient, we can find out the equation of a straight line. Now what is there here? Equation of a straight line. The coordinates of every point on a straight line all have a common relationship. This relationship, when expressed algebraically as an equation in the form of x and y, is known as equation of the line. So if I'm writing here y is equals to 2x, right? Or if I am writing here x plus y is equals to 5, or if I write on x plus y minus 6 is equals to 0. So everywhere you can see that you are relating x and y. So every equation is representing the equation of straight line. But how do we use the slope to make the equation of the straight line here? You are calculating slope or gradient, which we call it as m. So you have to remember here, this is called gradient form or gradient form of an equation of gradient form of an equation of a straight line. We are talking about here straight line only, right? So you will write on here y is equals to mx plus c. That means I have to make y as a subject. So whatever the coefficient is there with x, that's called gradient or slope, and c is known as y-intercept. So wherever the straight line cuts the y-axis, that's called y-intercept. Now how do we do it here? If the same question here, if you see, I have calculated the gradient. If I'm taking here, so this is a straight line, you can see that DE is a straight line. So I have the coordinates, I have calculated the gradient. If I need to find out equation of, because this line can be extended infinitely, right? So if I need to find out equation of line DE, right? If I put here arrow, that means it becomes line DE. How are you going to do it? We will see that you always get here. Let me take this question so that we can discuss how do we solve it here, because you have already calculated. Because whenever you need to find out the equation of a straight line, you will always first find out the gradient, right? Gradient is already there, you calculate it as, because it has negative slope, minus 3 by 4. And what is the equation of a line? First you will start with mx plus c, where m you have calculated as minus 3 by 4. How to calculate c? Because there is no graph here, so I don't know whether this line is intersecting y-axis or not. So what do you do? But every point in this line is going to satisfy the equation y equals to mx plus c. So I don't have here c, so can I substitute here minus 3 by 4 x plus c? Now here, because every point on the line here passing through D, if it is line L, will satisfy, and I already have the coordinates of D and E. So any one, if you substitute here in this equation, you will get the value of C. So what is the coordinates of D? It is 1 comma 5, 5 comma 2. Any one coordinates in place, because you know that this is ordered pair x comma y. So let us substitute. If I substitute point E coordinates, so y is 2 and x coordinate is 5. So minus 3 by 4 times 5 plus c. If you do the simplification, you will get here the value of c. That is, if I get here LCM, it will be 4 by 4. 4 is the LCM, so 8 plus 15 is going to be 23 by 4, right? So you see what is going to be our equation of the line DE, it will be minus 3 by 4x, and now you can substitute here 23 by 4, right? Now this is your gradient form. This is the gradient form of the equation where your y is the subject. But other than that, you see the standard form also here. Standard form of a straight line. This also you should know here. Straight line, that is always in the form of ax plus by plus c is equals to 0, where a, b, c are the real numbers constant, and a or b both cannot be 0, right? Or B cannot be equals to 0. Both cannot be equals to 0 at a time, right? So how do we get it here? If I need to find out the standard form here, or find standard form of the above equation, because this is called gradient form, right? This is standard form. If I'm writing here y is minus 3x by 4 plus 23 by 4, you know that it should be in the form of ax plus by plus c equals to 0. So can I take here minus 3x plus 23 by 4 common? So it will be 4y plus 3x minus 23 is equals to 0. I just transpose here 4y is minus 3x, and you know that everything should be on one side, and please rearrange. This is 3x plus 4y minus 23 is equals to 0. This is called standard form of a linear equation. Linear equation or the equation of a straight line. Why? Because linear equation, because the highest power is 1. Linear equation, simultaneous linear equation, there is one equation. You can say this is nothing but the line form also, because you know that this is the linear equation in two variable. This is the simultaneous equation, you use it, right? So after that you will see that how do we take, what is the meaning of parallel lines. So whenever we take here parallel lines, that means more than two lines, right? So if I say here parallel lines, parallel lines means equidistant line which will never meet. So if this is a line, any two lines which are parallel, so if this is line L which is parallel to line, if I take it here P, so you know that line P is parallel to line L. Now definitely there will be one gradient here. If I write down that gradient is M1, and the line, another line which is line 2, which is line P, the gradient is M2. So you have to remember, whenever there is a parallel line, their gradients are always going to be equal. Similarly, if I'm having here perpendicular lines, for perpendicular lines, what is going to be the rule you have to remember? Perpendicular lines means they both meet at 90 degree. If I take here perpendicular lines, it can be any line. This is not x and y axis, but they are making here 90 degree angle. If this is line L1 and this is line L2. So what is, and if line L is having gradient 1 and line 2 is having gradient 2 M2, gradient M1 and M2, then you should know that what is the relationship between their gradients. M1 into M2 is always minus 1. So this rule you have to remember, or we say that this is called negative reciprocal to each other, right? So here this is called negative reciprocal to other. So what is going to be the gradient of a perpendicular line? It will be negative reciprocal. Why do we say negative reciprocal here? Because if M1 is known, you can get M2 as minus 1 by M1. Or if M1 is, you need to find out M1, then you can take here minus 1 by M2. Right? So that's why we call it as negative reciprocal. Now, how do we find out the gradient of a horizontal line? If I take horizontal line, you know that the horizontal lines are going to be here parallel to x-axis. So if I'm having x and y axis, see here, this, if this is x-axis, this is y-axis, and this is any line which is parallel to x-axis, whether above or below the positive or negative direction of y. If I'm writing here y is equals to 2, you can take any 2 points here, because y is fixed here. If I take here, this is 1, 2, and here it is minus 1, minus 2, right? If I take this point here, it is going to be the coordinates are going to be 2, 2 if point A, and if I take here another point which is minus 1, 2, because y is fixed, right? So what is your another point here? How to calculate the gradient here? Point A, if I take any 2 points, you can take it. I'm just taking any two coordinates. For both the coordinates, y coordinate is fixed. Now, if I calculate the gradient, you know that it is y2 minus y1 by x2 minus x1. Because y is fixed in the whole line for all the y coordinates, it is going to be 2. So it is always going to be 0, because what is your x2 here? Minus 1. minus 2, which is going to be 0 by minus 3, which is 0. So for any horizontal line, the gradient slope is always 0. Similarly, if I talk about the vertical line, what will happen here? Vertical line, you know that it is always parallel to y-axis. So if I take a vertical line, that means here I can take vertical line parallel to y-axis. So if I draw here x-axis and y-axis here, and if you take vertical line here, this is 0. If I take here 2, 4, and here minus 2, minus 4. Now if I draw here a line which is parallel to y-axis, it can be any value. I am taking it at this. So what is going to be equation of this line? X is equals to minus 4. Now you take any 2 points here, x is fixed, but y can be changed here. So here if I take a point P as minus 4 comma 2, and here if I take another point Q as minus 4 comma minus 1. Now here what are the 2 points? Minus 4 comma 2, and Q is minus 4 comma minus 1. Now how are you going to calculate the gradient? Again, change in y by change in x, which is y2 minus y1 by x2 minus x1. Now in this case you will see for different y you are having the same x coordinate, right? This is going to be y2 x2 minus x1. This is minus 4, so it will be minus 3 by 0. Now whenever you have your denominator or divisor as 0, this becomes not defined term, because you can't divide by 0. 0 cannot be the divisor. So for any vertical line, you have to remember the gradient is always going to be not defined term, infinity, right? You can't find out the gradient of any vertical line. So this is all about the gradient. Let us see how do we solve the questions. Now let us solve the questions based on whatever topics we have learned. So we have seen the distance formula. What are the things? Let us do the quick recap here. What are the things we have learned here? First we have learned distance formula. What is your distance formula? x2 minus x1 whole square plus y2 minus y1 whole square. Right. After that you have learned midpoint formula. What is the midpoint formula? We have it here. You can get the coordinates as x1 plus x2 by 2 comma y1 plus y2 by 2 when the two coordinates are given. After that you have learned the straight line. What is the gradient and how to find out the slope or gradient of a straight line? M is change in y by change in x. Then after that you have seen how to find out the equation of the line, which is y equals to mx plus c, where m is the gradient of the line and c is the y-intercept, or we can get c by substituting the values. After that we have seen that parallel line gradients are going to be equal and the perpendicular lines gradients are going to be negative reciprocal to each other, right? So using these topics, these terms, we are going to solve the questions. What is this question number 1 here? Find an equation of the straight line which passes through 1 comma 3 and 3 comma 7, right? So if I take here first coordinate as point A, which is 1 comma 3, and the second one as B, which is 3 comma 7, I need to find out the y equals to, that means an equation of a line. If I draw this here, if point A is here, point B is here, and passing through point A and B, there can be a straight line which we can draw, right? So how are we going to get it here? Y equals to mx plus c is the equation of straight line. You know that the gradient, we get it as y2 minus y1 by x2 minus x1, and if I substitute the value 7 minus 3 by 3 minus 1, which is 4y2, so your gradient is positive. So here when you are drawing it here, you can, because these figures are not to sketch, you can draw like that because it's a positive gradient. So I can take here A and I can take it here B, right? Now I can substitute 2 in the equation, which is 2x plus c. Now y-intercept means it has to be in the 0 comma y form, but both the points are not in that form. So to get the value of c, I can substitute any one coordinates here. Either you can substitute 1 comma 3 or 3 comma 7 in places of x and y. So if I take the first, if I substitute, because all the points on this line will satisfy the equation. So here y value is 3 and x value is 1. So 2 times 1, so C value is going to be 3 minus 2, which is 1. So what is going to be your equation of line here? 2x plus 1, right? This is your equation of line. Then after that, we need to write down this in the form of ax plus by equals to c. So how can we do it here? If I take here ax plus by, so you can take here y, you can take it to the right side, and 1 you can bring it to the left hand side. I can write down this as 2x minus y equals to minus 1, or I can do here y minus 2x. So minus 2x plus y is equals to 1 also you can do it. Okay, so here the sign can change, minus 2x plus y, because I can transpose 2x also to the left hand side is going to be equals to 1. This is nothing but the straight line form. This, if you see that this is nothing but simultaneous equation, you use these linear equation to solve the question graphically or algebraically. So this is your first question where you are finding the equation of the line using gradient form. This is called gradient form, y equals to mx plus c, to get the equation of a straight line. Now what is your second question here? Find an equation of a line. So whenever you see equation of a line, always remember y equals to mx plus c. This is the way you always get equation of a line that passes through 2 points here, 1 minus 4. So again there are 2 points. Again I can take here a is 1 comma minus 4, and here point b if it is 1 comma 6. How are we going to get it here? If I take it again, y equals to mx plus c, we need to calculate m and c. So gradient will be 6 minus of minus 4. Only you need to be careful here whenever you are having the negative side, right? Now look at here, if you will see your x is fixed. If I do this also, this becomes here 10 by 0, which is not defined, right? So is it possible to draw to find out the equation of the line? Then you know that here the gradient, if the gradient is not defined, means that is there are different, for different y values x is fixed, and you can see that x is fixed. So the equation of line is going to be x is equals to 1. You need to remember this. Okay, you can, the moment you check the gradient, you will understand whenever the denominator is 0 means your x is fixed, right? So your equation of line is going to be x is equals to 1. Then after that, your next question number 3, what is given here? Determine the equation of the illustrated line. Now the line is given in the graph form. Here, what is your line here? This is the line, right? Now out from this line, you can first find out the coordinates. So one of the coordinates, it is P. Another coordinate, if you will see, you can write on here 3 comma 0. Again here I can, if I take it here point A and this is point B, and again equation of line, I need to have y is equals to mx plus c. Now C is your y-intercept, but I don't know this line is cutting at which point on y-axis. So I will solve it by substituting one of the coordinates. So first you get your gradient slope y2 minus y1 by x2 minus x1, which is, so what are the 2 points here? 1 comma 4 and 3 comma 0, because on x-axis all the y coordinates are 0. So if I substitute the value, it's 0 minus 4 by 3 minus 1, which is minus 4 by 2, and this is minus 2, right? And you can see that here this is the, this line, if you see it, it is going to give you negative gradient only. After that, if I substitute, y will be minus 2x plus c. Now I need to get the value of c. For that you can substitute any one point, and I am substituting here 3 comma 0. So 0 is y coordinate, minus 3 minus 2 times 3 plus c. So that means c is going to be equals to 6. So what is going to be your equation of line here? So y will be equals to minus 2x plus 6. This is your equation of line, which is in the gradient form. If I need the straight line form, you can write down 2x plus y is equals to 6 also. Okay, then after that, what is the next question? Let us see here. All these are the different types of questions based on whatever topic you have learned today. There are some questions will be exam based questions also. That also I'll discuss at the end here. Now here question number 4, what is given? Consider the point A. So point A is given as -1 comma 6 and point B is given as 5 comma 4. Find the distance between AB. Now AB distance, you have to use distance formula. What is the distance formula? X2 minus x1 whole square plus y2 minus y1 whole square. Always write down the formula whenever you get the formula. So x2 is here, if I take it here, this can be x1 y1 and this can be x2 y2. So what can I take it here? 5 minus of minus 1 whole square, because subtraction sign and x1 is -1, plus y2 is 4 minus 6 whole square, right? And if you do the simplification, it is 5 plus 1 6, 36, plus here you can do one more step here, 6 square plus minus 2 whole square also. So this is nothing but 4, which is going to be root 40. Root 40, if you are writing here, you can write down in surds form. It will be 4 times 10, so it will be 2 root 10 units. Okay, or if you are writing in the decimal form, then you need to write down the 3 significant figure, which is root 40 is 6.32. So this can be written as 6.32 units as well. Okay, so this is the distance between AB, and after that, if I take it here after that, so this is your part A. Okay, part B, the midpoint of AB. How are you going to get the midpoint of AB? Is the midpoint. If I take it here, midpoint formula. What is your midpoint formula? You take the end coordinates and you take its average, right? So it's x1 plus x2 by 2 and y1 plus y2 by 2. If I do this, what is the value of x1 here? -1 plus 5 by 2 comma 6 plus 4 by 2. Substitute the values correctly. Okay, here x1 x2 is -1 and 5 and 6 comma 4. So it is 4 by 2 comma 10 by 2. So your coordinates are nothing but 2 comma 5. This is the midpoint coordinate, right? Midpoint form, using midpoint formula, you are getting the midpoint of AB coordinates. Now what is given here? Equation of the line through AB. So here you are using all the three things that you have learned in the starting. Here how do we get here? Equation of line, you know that we always take y is equals to mx plus c. Now what is your gradient here? It is y2 minus y1 by x2 minus x1, right? So here what is y2? It is nothing but here 4 minus 6. So you can write down here 4 minus 6 by x2 is 4 minus 6, x2 is 5 minus of minus 1. So here negative, negative, -1, which is -2 by 6. So that is -1 by 3. You can write down the coordinates again here and you can do it -1 comma 6. And what is the other coordinate here? 5 comma 4. Okay, make sure you are substituting the correct value. So 4 minus 6 and 5 minus 1, it is going to be 2 minus 2 by, it's a negative gradient. And how are you going to get the equation of the line? I have to still get the value of C, so I can substitute any one point here, point A or point B values. If I am substituting here, so first thing, y is equals to -1 by 3x plus c. Now what can I substitute in place of x here? -1 comma 6. So 6 is this value, equals to, you can write down here at, also at 1 -1 6. So y coordinates is 6 minus 1 by 3 times 1 plus, this is -1 plus c. So what do you get it here? This is 6 minus 1 by 3, because this one will become positive. These two, negative of negative, it will be positive. So this is 1 by 3, so plus c. So c value is going to be 6 minus 1 by 3, which is going to be 18 minus 1 by 3, which is c. So C value is 17 by 3. So what is going to be our equation? Y equals to minus 1 by 3x plus 17 by 3. So this is nothing but your equation of the line in the gradient form. If you need the standard form, they are not asking, so you can leave the answer in the gradient form only. Okay. Now what is the next question here? This is the next question. If you will see here your question number 5. How do we do it here? Question number 5. So till now we were finding equation of line. We found the distance between 2 points, then midpoint formula. Then what is given here? Find an equation. Now again an equation means it is y is equals to mx plus c. Line which passes through 3 comma 4 and is parallel to line y equals to 2x minus 7. So another equation is given as 2x minus 7. Now this is already in gradient form. So what is this gradient here? You can, so this is your equation 2. This is your equation 1. Or because there are two lines, right? That's why they are parallel, it's given. So you can write down here for parallel lines. What is the relationship between their gradients? You know that it is m1. Both the gradients have to be equal. So m1 is equals to m2. So from equation 1, I know here m1 is 2. So m2, the gradient of the second line, also going to be 2. So we can write on here 2x plus c. This is your equation 2. Now this is passes through 3 comma 4, right? Because this is the equation of a line which passes through this and parallel to line. So if I am having the first line as y equals to 2x minus 7, I have to find out equation of this line. Okay, y equals to mx plus c, where m is going to be, because this is parallel to this, so m is going to be 2 because m1 is equals to m2, and it is passing through a point, means there is one point which is having 3 comma 4 coordinate, which is there in the second parallel line, right? So parallel line which is passing through y is equals to mx plus c. That means this point is going to satisfy our equation. So I can substitute here 4 equals to 2 times 3 plus c, and c will be 4 minus 6. So c value is minus 2. So what is going to be the equation of the line 2 which is parallel to the given line? So equation of line, you can write down here, equation of line will be here equals to y equals to 2x minus 2. This is going to be your equation of line. Now let us see the next question here. So here we have used the topic which is parallel line gradients are always equal. Now the next question, if you will see, find the coordinates of x. Now if you will observe, there are two lines. This is if I take line L and line M, right? Or L1 and L2. There are two lines. If you will see, this 90 degree is marked here. The moment you see 90 degree means you know that both the lines are perpendicular to each other, right? So you have to observe it. So what is given here? If I see Px is perpendicular to Rx, you can see that. That means X is their common meeting point. Now what is given? How are we going to find out here? Using PQ. So can we find out here what is going to be gradient of line Px? How to get it here? P and Q are both are the part of Px. So P is with coordinates minus 5 comma 6 and Q is with coordinate minus 3 comma 5. If I calculate the gradient, y2 minus y1, so 5 minus 6 by minus 3 minus of minus 5, which is minus 1 by plus 5, which is minus 1 by 2. So this is negative gradient. Now this is gradient, that means if I mark it here M1, you know that both the lines are parallel to perpendicular to each other. So you can take it here, since Px is perpendicular to Rx. So M1, their product is going to be -1. So I can substitute here m1, which is -1 by 2 into m2 is equals to -1. So m2 is going to be 2 because it's a negative reciprocal. So -1 by 2 means you have to change the sign and you have to reciprocate 1 by 2, which is 2 by 1. So that is why we are getting here m2 as 2. So how to get the equation of the second line? So here I can take it here, equation of line Rx, which is y equals to m2x. Mx plus c is there. I can write down here mx plus c because that's a standard form. But while substituting, I am going to substitute 2 because here this is m2. So 2x plus c. Now how to get the value of c? All the points on this line are going to satisfy the equation and r falls at line rx, right? So I can take here at r, which is 1 comma -2. If I substitute, -2 is equals to 2 times 1 plus c. So -2 is equals to c. So you are getting y-intercept as -4. That means the line is going to intersect y-axis at 0 comma -4. So what is going to be here equation of line? Because you need to find out here, you need to find out coordinates of x. We are just finding here gradient first. We are getting, using the gradient, we are going to find out the two equations. So can I write down here y equals to 2x minus 4. So this is your equation 2. And what was your equation 1? We did not find out here equation but when 1, but to calculate the coordinates of x, we need to get the equation 1 also. So here let us see here how can we do it here. Y equals to mx plus c. Now y is equals to -1 by 2x plus c. Now p and q both are the part of this line, so I can substitute any one coordinates, p's coordinates or q's coordinates. If I put here q's coordinates, that's a 5 is equals to -1 by 2 times -3 plus c, right? So that is going to be here 5 minus 3 by 2 is equals to c, because -3, -1 will become positive. So it's going to be c is going to be here 5 2s are 10 minus 7 by 2. So what is going to be the another equation here? Y equals to -1 by 2x plus 7 by 2. This is your first equation of line 1. This is your 1. Let us write down there here. If I write down downside, what is your first equation? This is your equation 2, line 2 equation. What was your line 1 equation? Y equals to -1 by 2x plus 7 by 2 from 1. Okay. Now here I have to solve both, because what happens here in this question, the intersection. Now here there is an integration of simultaneous equation also. See here, you know that these two are intersecting line. That means if I have the equation of first line and equation of second line, algebraically I can follow simultaneous equation method, elimination method, substitution method to get the value of x and y. Okay, so here either you can write down 2 is a common factor. I can write down this as 2y equals to -x plus 7 also as equation 1. Now here can I substitute y values from equation 2? You can follow elimination method also. I am just directly doing substitution method because here I can see the solution directly. You can substitute the value of y. Now if you simplify, 4x minus 8 plus x equals to 7. So that is going to be 5x equals to 7 plus 8. So 5x is 15 and x is going to be equals to 3. Now once you get x as 3, any one equation you can substitute to get the value of y. Now y is equals to 2x minus 4, right? Y equals to 2x minus 4, substitute here y, x value 6 minus 4 is going to be 2. So what is going to be the coordinates of point x, because it's an intersection of both the lines. So simultaneous equation, how do we solve it without graph? By using elimination or substitution method. Therefore coordinates of x is 3 comma 2. Now after this, sometime you will have to check it. These are the questions based on parallel line, perpendicular lines and the other basic coordinate geometry. Sometime you have to check whether the given points are collinear or not. So how to check collinearity of points? Right here, check the collinearity or collinear points. How are you going to check it here? Because they'll give you the coordinates and you need to check if these 3 points are collinear. So if I'm giving you here coordinates of A as x1, y1, any coordinates, then for coordinates of B, this is x2, y2, and here there is a point C, x3, y3. So what you need to do it, if you need to check the collinearity, what you are going to do it here, you are going to find out the gradient of AB. If I find out gradient of AB and here BC, if they are equal, right? So if gradients are equal, then both are going to be parallel line, because you can see that here AB and BC having a common point B, and if their gradients are equal and B is common point between, any one common point has to be there, common point between AB and BC. So therefore you can see that A, B and C are collinear points. Okay, how are you going to check here if I give you one question? Because why this is true? Because if I'm having a line here, right, if this is AB, now this gradient is M1. If I'm having another line which is parallel to BC, because this is parallel, that means it is going to be, starting point is going to be same, and parallel line is nothing but it will become here coincident line, or the line extending, if you are extending it, because its rise over run is going to be same if it is collinear. So AB, BC, because whatever is here rise over run, the same rise over run will be here. That means all 3 points are on a straight line. So collinearity, you find out the gradient of any two lines, and if they have a common point, you can say that it's a collinear point. So let us see one question based on this. How do we solve it here? This is another question which is, this is also exam type of question. Kite is very important figure. It comes in exam, right? So first thing you should remember the property of kite. Whenever we have a kite, remember one thing, its diagonals are intersecting at 90°. Okay, so here if I take, this is a kite, what are the properties of kites? Adjacent sides are always equal, right? And the diagonals here is always, they are perpendicular, not perpendicular bisector. Only one diagonal is getting bisected here. So if ABCD is a kite here, this part will be equals to this. So O is the midpoint of BD. So you need to remember these properties. First thing, AC is perpendicular on BD. Diagonals are perpendicular to each other. Then here BO is equals to OD. That means O is the midpoint of BD. Right? Now let us see here, because see in this question, if you see the graph is given for kite ABCD, you need to find out ABCD coordinates are also given. How are you going to find out the midpoint? If they are saying here midpoint is M, right? By drawing you will not do it. Remember, you need to use the midpoint formula. And what is your midpoint formula? If you take it, x1 plus x2. So M coordinates are going to be here x1. That means here B and D are endpoints if M is here. M is the midpoint of BD, right? So M is the midpoint of BD. That means you need to take coordinates of B, which is 0, minus 3, and coordinates of D, which is 2, minus 5 as x1, x2. So it will be 0 plus 2 by 2, minus 3 plus minus 5 by 2, right? So what is going to be the coordinates of M? It is going to be 1, this is minus 3 minus 5 minus 8 by 2, which will be minus 4. So this is, you are going to be, you will get here M coordinates as 1, minus 4. After that, this A part is done. Then after that, B part, they say show that A and C are collinear. See, just now I was telling you how to check the collinearity. So for to check that A and C are collinear, you will find out the gradients or a slope of gradients of AM and MC. If they both are equal with a common point M, then you can say that AMC are collinear. So what is going to be here? Gradient of or slope of AM. You can write down here gradient of AM. If I take it here M1, that is going to be here. What can we take it here? A and M. A coordinates are -2, -7, and here C coordinates are 6 comma 6 comma 1, right? You can write down here, so it's easy to read it. Now y2 minus y1, so it's -4 minus of -7 by x2 minus, so 1 minus of -2, that will be -4 plus 7 by 1 plus 2, which is 3 by 3, that is 1. So you are getting gradient as 1. Then this is M1 is nothing but gradient of AM, right? And after that, MC gradient, if I need to find out here, MC gradient, if I take it as M2, so now you need to take the coordinates of M, which is 1 comma -4. I can write down here 1 -4, and that is it is 6. C's coordinate is 6 comma 1. If you write down, it's easy to take the value. So again, y2 minus y1 will be 1 minus of -4 y2 minus y1 by 6 minus 1, which is 1 plus 4 by 5, that is also 1. So you can see that M1 is equals to M2. Both the gradients are equal, since gradients of AM, you can write down here, M1 is equals to M2 is equals to 1. Gradient of AM and MC are equal with a common point, which is a common point. What is the common point between both the lines? Common point M. Therefore, AM and C are collinear. Always keep writing all the steps whenever you are writing solutions, so that you don't lose any marks for anything. Now after that, you need to show that AC is perpendicular to BD. See, we know that as per the property kite, it is perpendicular, but you can't just write on because as per property it's perpendicular. You know that to check the perpendicular, you need to show that the product of their gradients are always -1. So AC, if I take here, what will be the AC gradient here? I'm just doing it here only for C part. M1 will be x2 y2 minus y1. So here AC, for AC, 1 minus of -7 by x2 minus x1 will be 6 minus of -2. Don't go wrong with the sign, otherwise the whole value will be wrong. So 8 by 8, you are getting 1. Okay. Now here M1, this is for AC. After that, you need to take the another one, which is, what is the another diagonal here? BD, because you need to show that AC is perpendicular to BD. So BD, if I take M2 is the gradient, so BD, you can take here -5 minus of -3 by x2 is 2 and minus 0. Okay, because here see BD y2 is -5 minus -3. So this is -5 plus 3 by 2, which is -2 by 2, which is -1. So from here you can say that, right? If I take it here, then what can we write down here? If I'm taking this, I can write here, since M1 and M2, if you will see that the product of both, it's going to be after this, you can take it here. This is a part of C, okay? This is whole part of C. Now here C part, since M1 into M2, which is 1 times -1, which is -1. Therefore, which shows that this is, whenever the product of gradient is -1, they are perpendicular to each other. Therefore, AC is perpendicular to BD. So hope you got this. These are the exam type questions. You get it. You can get parallelogram, you can get kite, you can get rhombus, all these figures you can get it when you are solving the coordinate geometry questions. Hope you got this. Thank you for watching this video. Please like, share and subscribe. Also, keep practicing.